I graduated with my undergraduate degree in theology and was ordained the same day, back in 1990 in Atlanta. And that happened in the evening, and there was a Nigerian bishop who was there. He just happened to be in town, and so was a part of the ordination, and it was an incredible experience. And then I left that night, Atlanta, coming back here to this area to be an associate pastor at a Methodist church here in town. So that was quite a while ago, but I remember every moment of that. So glad to be with you today. I want to share with you something that I don't know that a lot of us think about enough. What Reverend Ron has mentioned several times today is about increasing our consciousness, right? And so I feel like with a message like this, what I want us to do is raise an awareness, raise our consciousness in a particular area. And this area has to do with knowing and not knowing, in living with uncertainty. Now, we have different levels of uncertainty in our lives. All of us experienced recently a global pandemic, and what we thought were our norms and what was expected just completely left us for quite a while. Prior to that, in this region, we experienced a Category 5 hurricane and devastation like none of us, I believe, have ever experienced before. Perhaps if you've been in a war zone or something like that, you may have experienced something similar, but it was devastating. And there were things that we expected, things that we were accustomed to, that suddenly were no more. I feel like a lot of us, can we turn this down maybe just a little bit? A lot of us have forgotten this truth, and the truth is this: God created order out of chaos. But sometimes, or maybe even a lot of times, the chaos shows through. God created order, or Goddess created order out of chaos, but sometimes the chaos shows through. You don't have to raise your hand, but have any of you experienced, even recently, chaos showing through in your life? So I think what happens, this is the danger. This is what I'm afraid most of us do. We think we know something. We think we have some kind of clue. We think we can predict things. We think we have expectations. And we're living, and suddenly something happens, chaos shows through, and we are confronted with an unknown, an uncertainty, something that was unexpected, and we're just not sure what to do, and we're confronted with something we do not know. We don't know the answer to, we don't know the solution, we're not sure how to respond, what to do. So a gap opens up. And that's a gap of knowledge, a gap of experience, a gap of understanding, whatever it is. And too often, we choose an insufficient answer to close that gap. Because you know what that gap causes for us? You know what uncertainty causes for us? You know what chaos causes for us? Discomfort. And so rather than living with discomfort, being with discomfort, we choose a pseudo answer, a partial answer. We see this in religion a lot. We see it in politics, we see it in science, we see it in philosophy, we see it all over the place where people want comfort, choose comfort, cling to comfort over courage. It takes courage to sit with discomfort. It takes courage to admit, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. And if we're growing spiritually, if we're maturing, then when we enter spiritual things, when we enter religious things, we either, and a lot of us start this way, that's why I mentioned the maturity process, but we either enter the mystery to solve it or to be changed by it. Dogmatic, legalistic, fundamentalist, religion, politics, whatever it is, culture, says these are the answers, these are what we know to be true, there's no question here about any of these things, just believe them, live according to them, and you'll be fine. And so many who go into religion, go into therapy, go into self-help issues, go into whatever they're going into, it's to find answers and to cling to those answers and to let those answers make me feel comfortable. Uncertainty is defined as not able to be relied on, not known or definite, a lack of sureness about someone or something. Who wants to live like that? Who wants to walk around with that? But here's the thing that I submit to you today, and you decide whether it's true or not. This is reality. Reality is I know so much less than I think I do. Reality is there are more unknowns than knowns. And part of the title, Unknown Knowns, has to do with, sometimes I feel like we believe there are vague unknowns. If there are vague unknowns, that means all we have to do is get more knowledge and we'll solve it. We'll get the understanding. We'll get the knowledge. But if there are specific unknowables, there are no answers. Think about life and death. Think about this universe and how it works. Think about your life. Think about everything that you've ever experienced. Mostly we are dealing with specific unknowables. And again, we can close that gap and pretend we know, and I'm afraid that's what a lot of us do. Voltaire said, uncertainty is an uncomfortable position, but certainty is an absurd one. And we're living with absurdity. This knowledge gap that I'm talking about, this discomfort, creates anxiety. I mean, this scientifically proven, it creates anxiety, and most of us spend our lives trying to get away from anxiety. We medicate, whether self-medication or a doctor prescribes it, we enter religion and self-help and counseling, and we busy ourselves, we throw ourselves into work, we throw ourselves into relationships, we whatever it is to distract us from anxiety, from this discomfort. Anxiety, the mind and body's reaction to stressful, dangerous, or unfamiliar situations. Unfamiliar, unknown. It's the sense of uneasiness, distress, or dread you feel before a significant event. A certain level of anxiety, though, helps us stay alert and aware. And this gift of anxiety, this gift that a raised awareness is a gift and will cause us to live in a different way, but we're closing that gap. We are refusing to live that way because we'd rather be comfortable than courageous. We'd rather be comfortable. We'd rather have pretend answers than actual experience of the mystery, the great mystery that we can never know. The mistake is thinking, David Levithan said, the mistake is thinking that there can be an antidote to uncertainty. So I am challenging you today, and far more than that, I am challenging myself to choose the better path of uncertainty, of unknowing, of not knowing. And this, like every spiritual practice, is just that. It's a practice. So we can, each of us, change how we've been living, and we can choose the discomfort, the path less traveled. We can choose that which it will lead to greater spiritual depth and experiences, or we can choose the path that is the easy answers, that is comfortable, that involves groupthink, and we all agree, and we have beliefs, we have doctrines, we have concepts, and they're confirmed by our culture, by our religion, by our family, by our friends. It's up to us. We get to choose what kind of life that we want to have. I feel like the not knowing path is much better. In Zen, this is known as beginner's mind. And I feel like that practice is one of the best practices we can have. Beginner's mind. I don't succeed, but I try to. Every time I start to write a new novel, I try to not know how to write a novel, which is not untrue. I don't know how. And every novel is unique, and thus the name novel, novelty. And it takes a different approach, and you have to figure it out. I'm also, and I think I've shared this with you before, but I'm a discovery writer. And so that means when I start the novel, I don't know everything that's going to happen. I don't have an outline. I write into the darkness, and every single morning I'm anxious to get back to the keyboard to see what happens next. It doesn't mean I don't know anything. I have a good idea of the characters, and I know some of the things that are going to happen, and I have a direction I believe is going in. But in the discovery process, I try to remain open and let the muse, my unconscious, whatever you want to call it, lead me through that process. To me, that's the way we should be living, discovery living. Science, science tells us that it's so good for our brain to live that way. Like even just if you took a different path home today, you know, we have those entrenched, deep crevices in our brains because we do the same thing every day. We glance somewhere and we expect to see what we've seen every other day, and so we don't really see what's there. We look at each other, but we don't really see. We're not really reading. We're not really picking up because we're distracted, because we think we know. Thinking we know is the most dangerous thing. Nothing closes us quicker than knowing. I have 2 degrees in theology, 2, an undergraduate and a graduate degree in theology. I just mentioned that in 1990 I graduated with the first degree, was ordained. And I can tell you that 30 whatever years later, I know far less today than I did then. Far, far, far less. And that's true of everything. Everything I've ever experienced, everything I have ever, I just don't know. If you're in a community like this one, if you're in a leadership role, if you're in a family where people depend on you, people are going to ask you questions. They're going to ask you for answers. How brave would it be to say, I don't know. I'm not sure about that. I can sit with it for a while. I can sit with you and we can see what we come up with. But how often are we brave enough to say, I just don't know? Beginner's mind. Start each day, start each moment, start each interaction by not knowing. So I'm challenging us not just to resist knowing, I'm encouraging us to embrace not knowing. To actually embrace it, to see the benefits, the great benefits of not knowing. The key is that not knowing isn't changing to a state of indecision or ignorance. It's not a fixed position we take. Instead, it's a way you engage in the next moment. Fresh, open, unbiased. You let go of clinging to fixed views, and I would say not just fixed views, but fixed identities. I know who I am, and I know who you are. That's ego. Ego knows, but doesn't really. Wants us to think we know. Why do you think we have so many shortcuts, mental shortcuts? Why do you think we have so many boxes we put people in? Because it's easy, because it's comfortable. I'm liberal. Does that say anything? In this culture, it tells you a few things you think you might know about me. And it'd be easy. She's conservative, I'm liberal. She's an introvert, I'm an extrovert. What, on and on and on. Division, and categorizing and putting people in boxes, putting ourselves in boxes with this simple, easy, wrong-headed, I believe, fixed views and identities. Not knowing is actually grounded in reality, because in reality, we don't know what's going to happen next. Do you realize that if, let's say, the stock market was more predictable, how many of us would be more wealthy? What about weather prediction? We a lot of experts getting that right? So many things are like that. Any idea what China's going to do next? Or Russia? And yet, we don't really want to think about that, do we? We don't want to say, as young people, kids, maybe we grew up in a good, safe home. Many of us didn't, I realize that. But those of us who did thought the world was that way. I know I did. I had parents that protected and provided and encouraged and loved and gave me such a good foundation. And I thought everybody's family was like that. And boy, I was in for a rude awakening when I went out into the world and began to see things. Not only are not other families like that, many other families are not like that, but the world is not like that. And we seek out doctors to give us diagnoses to tell us what's the real deal. Oh, you have 3 months. You have 6 months. Oh, you're healthy. You're going to live another 30 years. Do you think they know any of that with certainty? You practice not knowing in this moment, not in the abstract. One of the things that not knowing does for us is centers us in the moment. Earlier there was meditation, guided meditation, to get us centered, to get us in this moment. Answers rob us of the present moment. Answers, creeds, doctrines, all these things, these certainties take us out of the present moment. Not knowing puts us back in it. Knowing is defensive. When we're knowers, it's a type of armor we put on. Brene Brown says, having to be a knower or always being right is heavy armor. It's defensive, it's posturing, and worst of all, it's a huge driver of bullshit. It's also very common. Most of us have some degree of knower in us. Unfortunately, needing to know everything is pretty miserable for the knowers and everyone around them. It leads to distrust, bad decisions, and unnecessary, unproductive conflict. None of us are monolithic, single entities. We all have, various parts of our personalities, of our beings. And I was doing some parts work recently in this area, in this subject, and I discovered that I have within me a college professor part that has been a seeker from very young age, and wants to know. wants to know. Started seeking early because wants the answers. But I have another part of me that's more central to my core, to my heart, that wants that trusts and wants the experience, wants to embrace, to be open, remain open to life, remain open to the mystery, not have the defensive, I know everything. You can't tell me anything. I know it already. That reminds me, my daughter and my granddaughter gave me a t-shirt for Father's Day that says, you can't tell me what to do, you're not my granddaughter. I want to give you just a few things that live in this life of beginner's mind, of not knowing, of embracing the unknowns will do for us. I've mentioned a few already. It'll make us less defensive. It'll allow us to take off this armor that we've been struggling with. It'll keep us open. It'll make us patient. If you have to sit with not knowing, that builds patience. It also builds trust. I don't have to have the pretend fake answers. I can trust the universe. I can trust. This trusting is trusting the unfolding. I don't have to control it. I don't have to direct it. I just have to experience it. I just have to live it. What freedom in our lives that brings, that level of trust. That I don't have to know the answers. I don't have to be in control. Oh, then I can just relax and go with the flow. The Taoist concept of wu-wei, actionless action, going with the flow. It's not inactivity, it's not passivity, but it's our actions are done within the flow of the great Tao, that river that carries us along. You are a child of the universe, no less than the trees and the stars, and have a right to be here. And whether or not it is clear to you, no doubt the universe is unfolding as it should. One of the most important things we can do, rather than practicing control, is to practice curiosity. To be curious. To be open and curious. To love. And I mean love in the only way a passionate lover can love. Love questions. Love the questions. Don't trust the answers. Love and embrace the questions. And we learn so much more by the questions. Reward great questions, not only in your own life, but in those around you. And instances of, I don't know, but I'd like to find out. The big shift here we're doing is from wanting to be right to wanting to get it right. The important thing is not to stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reason for existence. One cannot help but be in awe when he or she contemplates the mysteries of eternity, of life, of the marvelous structure of reality. It's enough if one tries merely to comprehend a little of this mystery every day. You know who said that? Pretty smart dude named Einstein. This approach makes life more interesting. Now, deceiving ourselves that we have answers might make us feel more safe. We're not really more safe, but it may give us that faux sense of security. But embracing the mystery, embracing the not knowing, makes life interesting. That's why I write novels the way I do. Discovery. I'm interested. I'm engaged. I want to know what's unfolding, what's happening. And I don't until I experience it. It gives us an opportunity for trust, like few things do. Maybe nothing else does to this level, to trust. Think about 12 Steps programs and where they all begin. I can't do this. On my own, I cannot do this. I have to have a power greater than myself. I have to admit I'm powerless, and I have to reach out for help. And that help comes from a power greater than ourselves, but also from a community. The business of philosophy, Lev Shestov said, is to teach people to live in uncertainty, not to reassure them, but to upset them. This kind of living ends clinging. It ends the fixed identity of ego I mentioned earlier, and keeps us open. Plutarch said the mind is not a vessel to be filled, but a fire to be kindled. It keeps us humble. It makes us more compassionate. It's a better way of living. And it's more true. It's more accurate to life, to the way the universe works. So today, I feel like each of us are presented with a choice. We can cling to easy, untrue answers that make us feel comfortable and safe and secure, and we can surround ourselves with people who do those same things and agree with us. Because there's safety in numbers, right? If you believe it too, then I'm much more reassured. Or we can come on this other side and say, life is a mystery. Everything about the universe is mysterious. Everything about my life is mysterious. Why am I even here? Who am I? Why am I here? What's this all about? Those are lifelong questions. Not something as a kid we asked and answered. That we stay open, pursuing, experiencing, and living. Even when it's uncomfortable, even when, God, look at those answers look so, just give me one. Just let me have, nope. I want to live truly and reflect the mystery of life and embrace it. I want to close with one more quote from Einstein. The most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious. It is the source of all true art and science. The most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious. And many of us have not had as beautiful experiences, as beautiful lives as we could have had, because we've not been embracing the mysterious, the specific unknowables. I encourage each of us today, from this moment forward, to live a more beautiful life that embraces the mystery. Thank you.